All right, brainstorm here with me for a little bit. So I've been watching this new handyman. I was recommended to check him out on YouTube. He's called the Bulletproof Handyman Business, and it's quite intriguing. I absolutely have been loving his content, and I wanted to kind of brainstorm with you guys a little bit here today about what the future looks like based on one of his videos. To give you guys a little context, let's watch the video clip that I'm going to be talking about today, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and my thoughts about it here after that.
So what do we do about this? I don't want to call it a simple solution. There's nothing simple about this. This takes all of my time all day, every day. It's a very complex field, but there is a solution, guys. The solution is you want to work. So we just talked about the types of jobs, right? You've got optional jobs and not optional jobs. And then down this other column, you've got poor clients, medium income clients, and rich clients. So where do you want to work? Well, you don't want to work on optional jobs. If you're working on optional jobs, when the economy gets bad, people start opting out of paying you to do those jobs. If somebody has 3 bathrooms in their house, or just make it 2 bathrooms. If you've got 2 bathrooms and 1 toilet stops working, that's optional whether you fix that toilet. I've seen plenty of places where people just shut the water off to that 1 toilet and everybody starts using the other one. Now later on, if the economy recovers, of course, when they start feeling more confident, they're going to hire somebody to fix that other toilet. But when times are tough, and times are tough right now, people stop spending that money. So you don't want poor clients and you don't want optional jobs. What you want is medium to high income clients and jobs that are not optional. And the secret here is, this is, for me, the basis of Bulletproof, the basis of the title of this channel, and the basis of really my business model. And when I say bulletproof, of course, bulletproof doesn't mean you can't die. If you shoot somebody wearing a bulletproof vest with a cannon, it's going to go right through them and they're going to die, right? But you can shoot somebody with a bulletproof vest 5 or 6 times with a 9mm handgun, and it's going to hurt, but they're going to survive. So how do we become bulletproof? Becoming bulletproof is working for property managers. Now, this isn't only property managers. To some extent, this could be real estate agents and new home builders and other businesses. You could even go into commercial work. But the route that I found was property managers, because here's the secret with property management. All jobs are non-optional. When you're working for a property manager, all jobs are non-optional. If a renter has 2 toilets and one of those toilets stops working, the property manager does not have the option of telling the tenant to shut off the water to that toilet and just stop using it from now on. They must, by law, fix that toilet.
Well, that is very interesting, and I love the fact that he kind of explains bulletproof. That even if you're wearing a bulletproof vest, if a cannon shoots you, right, it's going to take you out. But how can you prepare yourself enough where you can take a few shots and still live? So I think that's ultimately the goal. So as many of you guys know, and what I want to talk about today is, we have tried to work with property managers in the past. We've had a lot of bad luck. Later in this video that the Bulletproof Handyman talks about, and by the way, if you go over and check him out, drop a comment on one of his videos, let him know that honestly Handyman sent you over. It'd be interesting to see how many guys send over from here over to there. He's been a cool guy. I haven't yet had a chance to connect with him, but hoping to connect with him shortly. So it's very interesting talking about property managers because, as many of you know, we've tried working for property managers in the past and it hasn't worked out. Later in this video that we shared a clip of, he talks about that most handymen, or some handymen, they work for property managers and they get a bad taste in their mouth, right? Something goes wrong, you encounter a bad property manager, you get a bad taste in your mouth and you never go back, right? Kind of like he is, what he says, towards homeowners, right? He doesn't really work for homeowners, he works for property managers. Well, I'm kind of the same way I work for homeowners, not property managers. But I think it's time to change that. I think it's really been a mental thing for a long time, whereas I've said, and I even heard my employees say it, this is kind of what brightened my eyes to it. It's interesting, this kind of came up probably a few weeks ago in our business, so it's kind of timely that this YouTube video or YouTube channel has come across my desk at this point in time, and I've also been talking to my coach about this as well. I heard my employees say that, in the past we haven't worked well with property managers, so we don't really deal with them. And that's exactly what I say. They took the mentality that I had and they took it upon themselves. Even though they've never necessarily worked for property managers, they just know that I have in the past, and I've had bad luck. And so therefore they kind of project that on, even when a property manager calls or a realtor calls, they will tell them, just so you know, we haven't had good luck working for a property manager or a realtor in the past. That's crazy. You should not tell clients that. But they're telling these people that because that's what I've directed them to tell property managers and realtors. So we're changing that. And in fact, we had a property manager give us a call probably about 3 weeks ago, and my CSR gave me a call, and she said, hey, I want to let you know that this property manager called. I told her that, you know, typically we don't really work with property managers, blah, blah, blah. But she said that, you know, she thinks that we could work well together because she just has a couple properties. And so I'm like, well, let's give it a try, because I kind of want to start pursuing that a little bit, learning more about that field. And it's just, and so anyways, that client has sent us probably 6 or 7 jobs in the last few weeks. So that's been awesome. I think that what the Bulletproof Handyman says here is that there's 2 types of jobs. There's optional jobs and non-optional jobs. And I completely agree with him that you don't, when stuff gets tricky, when you're in a bad economy, when you have high inflation, you don't want to get caught with the only jobs that you have as non-optional jobs, because those people are going to start opting out of paying you for those jobs, just like he said. I think he's spot on. And I think this is interesting. I know that, or at least from what I gather from his videos, he's been in business for about 3 years. I've been in business for 7 years. This goes to show you that just because someone has been doing something longer than you doesn't mean they have all the answers. I think we all have bias that we're born with. We all have bias that we kind of, you know, gain throughout our career and through different experiences that happen to us. One bias that I have definitely got on myself is that I don't work with property managers. That I don't like property managers. I want to stick with homeowners. And I think that it's that kind of thinking that, you know, when you're kind of that small-minded thinking is what's going to kill you, is that, no, I don't do this, right? When in reality, when stuff gets tough, when economy gets bad, things like that, you have to have a broader, you know, mindset as far as where you can find clients. So I do agree with him that, you know, you want to focus on doing non-optional work, because if you're only focused on doing optional stuff, when the economy gets bad and things like that, people are going to opt out of actually paying you. So definitely looking into that and figuring out how you can do that. For us personally, we work predominantly for homeowners, and the way that we've done it is we focus on a lot of those non-optional jobs, right? There's still a lot of optional stuff that we do, and I would agree as tough stuff gets harder, people tend to kind of push those jobs, you know, further down the road, kick the bucket down the road a little bit until times are a little bit better and they can do those jobs. So the non-optional things that we focus on is things like gutter cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, leaks. You know, leaks are huge, right? If a kitchen faucet is leaking or if an angle stop is leaking, yeah, you definitely need to fix those things. But I think that there's a whole nother avenue in property management that I haven't really pursued yet, and I wanted to kind of dive deep into that, maybe have some external processing going on here. You know, one of the main things that we love about working for homeowners is it fits our mission. Our mission is to bring hope for a better service, a better experience, and a better community. So we love working for people in our community. I don't necessarily know how working for property managers would fulfill that mission statement, because we're not necessarily working for people in the community. Yeah, we're working for the renters, but people who own those rental homes, they may live, you know, in Timbuktu somewhere. They're not actually actively in the community. Although you could have more sustainable jobs, more sustainable work for when times get tough. And again, I'm just brainstorming here, so some of this may not fully make sense. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. So when you're thinking about long-term jobs, right, property managers are great because they're always going to be there. They always need to do the work. They necessarily can't say no. By law, they have to fix the work, just like the Bulletproof Handyman said. But at the end of the day, I think that there is something huge to be said for a brand in your community that serves the community and serves the homeowners of that community. And again, I don't have all the answers here. Still trying to figure this out. mull this over in my brain. I think that it definitely needs to be a mixture, because if you work solely for property managers, you're not necessarily infecting the community in the way that we want to. Not saying that everyone needs to do that. That's kind of like just thinking about introspectively of how our business operates. And we definitely want to infect the community. We definitely want to enact change in our community and make sure that our mission is getting accomplished in the community. But on the other end, when the economy's bad and inflation is high, you have to also be making money. So I think it's a combination of the two. Because I've found really good luck, even in bad economy, when working for homeowners has been great. And by and large, I don't think I covered this, but I don't think that things are as bad as people think. Obviously, we have high inflation, the economy's suffering, housing prices are crazy, mortgage rates are crazy. So it's definitely a dire time. But I think that a lot of people's idea of what normal is skewed. I think times are definitely harder right now. Jobs are definitely harder to come by, but I think it's a reality that we haven't really experienced in a while. So if I look back to 2016, when I started this thing part-time, things were booming, right? And I think I was so big, like at one point I was booked out for 2 months. I think so much that there was so much handyman work just because the handyman industry was not really existent. There was a lot of chucking the trucks running around. There wasn't very many high professional, integrity, honest handymen out there as there is today. So when we first started out, the competition was very low for the kind of high-end handyman that we try and produce. So as long as you showed up on time, did the work you said you were going to do, and answer the phone, you had it going on for you. And then COVID hit. COVID was an absolute game changer. I remember when COVID hit, I was like, what are we going to do? Like, people aren't going to let us in their home. Like, oh man, what's going to... But in fact, the opposite happened. We got busier than we ever have. And those years really changed the world, because people were staying at home. People had a lot more money to spend because they weren't going on vacations, things like that. So you saw this kind of change in the whole business world. Our business started booming, even higher than pre-COVID. And then the housing market boomed. There was just craziness. You could even talk to realtors, right? They say it was so easy to sell a house during COVID, during the last 3 years. Whereas now it's a lot harder to sell a house, but now it's actually more like reality, like it was before COVID. When COVID happened, right, the housing markets were booming. Many people were becoming handymans. Everyone with tools were like, oh, this handyman thing is great. I'm going to hop in. I'm going to start a handyman business. And they were sailing on that really high ship where it's like things are easy. But now that the economy's starting to drop a little bit, inflation's starting to come back. Some of the policies and things like that were enacted during COVID are starting to catch up with us, making life a little bit harder. So now it's a lot harder to get handyman jobs. It's a lot harder to sell a house. So whereas before everyone and their brother was a realtor, now more people are going back to their day jobs because they're realizing it's a lot harder to sell a house. You actually have to try to sell a house now. Same with handyman jobs. I think you're seeing a lot of people go back to their old jobs because it's a lot harder to sell handyman jobs now. It's a lot less sustainable if you don't have that brand created. So I don't necessarily think it's as bad as a lot of people think it is. I think it's just our reality is skewed by the last 3 years and living in this lockdown society. Whereas now it's more of like reality, more of like what, pre-COVID was. Not exactly like it. I mean, I think that we're still in we're heading towards a crappy time in life. And I think, now things could be better. Obviously, the price of everything is higher. It's pretty crazy, but I don't think it's as bad as most people think. So trying to think about how that fits into my handyman business. I think one thing that I definitely want to change, I want to start looking into property managers. I want to start working for them, but I want to start gearing towards more higher end property managers if I can find them. So in the past, some of the property manager problems that we've encountered is just, lack of care for the client. Like I remember one time you know, the work order for this property manager was to go out and patch this ceiling, or not patch it, but really just scrape off some of the chipped paint and, you know, re-drywall mud if needed, and then repaint it. And I get out there, and I'm like, you know, I was talking to the renter who lived at the home, and I said, what's going on here? She said, well, for the past probably 6 years, the roof leaks right here, and you know, every springtime after the rainy season, they send a handyman out, and he comes and he, you know, scrapes off the chipping paint and you know, drywall muds a little bit and paints it again because it looked all crappy because water had been dripping there. And I said, well, have you ever had the roof fixed? And she's like, oh yeah, they send someone out every year. And I'm like, well, if they send someone out every year, why isn't it fixed yet? It's been going on for 6 years. So I ended up going up on the roof, and I found that the roof was just all junk. And I found the exact, you know, spot where it was leaking, and it needed to be re-roofed. Like, at the end of the day, there was no amount of patching, and you could see from probably the last 6 years of, you know, patches, right? Henry's wet patch and all this kind of crap on there from different handymen trying to do this, right? And I think that really put a bad taste in my mouth because, again, our mission is to bring hope, right? And I feel like that's not bringing hope. When you are sending someone out every year to do the same job, and it's not getting fixed, obviously, but you just send another guy out the next year to do the same exact job, and then the next year, and the next year, and the next year, that's not bringing hope. That's not accomplishing anything. And if I, as a homeowner, right, I own a rental property, and I would not want my property management company to be wasting my money like that, just to be putting a patch on this stuff where it's going to come back every year. I'd want them to actually fix it and fix it right. So for one, that, you know, it keeps the integrity of everything else. It's not going to cause rot. It's not going to cause mold. It's not going to cause anything like that. And it's also going to cause better life for my renter that's living in my property. So that's the story that kind of put the bad taste in my mouth about property managers. But I definitely think there's something to it. I think that was probably 5 years ago. So I think I've learned a whole heck of a lot since then. And I'm going to keep digging into that. So I don't know how much you guys got from this video, but it helps me to kind of externally process. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you guys work predominantly for property managers? Do you guys work predominantly for homeowners? Why do you do one over the other? But like I said in yesterday's video, I think you can never stay stagnant. You can never think that, okay, business is great, life is great, and I'm just going to smooth sail. Because at that point is the tipping point when you start going down and your business starts losing steam. So you need to keep creating, constantly be creating, and never, you know, never give up the ghost. You need to keep pushing. So that's kind of where I'm at. This has been day 33 of the 100-day video challenge. I appreciate you guys being here, and check out day 34 tomorrow. We'll be right here. We'll see you guys then.